they've dropped it down to 70 for this next week, and I gather 65s are coming up shortly. And then the rest of you folks. And the other thing is that we're good as West Virginia in our program, both in terms of suppressing the spread of the disease and in terms of getting people inoculated or vaccinated.
All right, gang. Well, it's 4:48. We do have a quorum in our 3 members present, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And like I say, I expect Francis Jarko to be joining us shortly. But let's be called to order. We are under recording now. And the first order of business would be the selection of a chair and a vice chair. And you're correct, Stephen, in the seniority of the board right now. It stands very, very clear. Rita's been on for the longest, but really only a couple of years, right, Rita?
Right. Yep.
But you've definitely got the foot in the door. They got the experience here. Steve, you've been on a year or so. Bob, you're brand new. Frankie's new. So we'll leave it between the 4 of you to discuss. I spoke with Craig Schulte earlier this afternoon. Unfortunately, he can't make it tonight, but he would be interested in serving, either role if there was no other interest.
Awesome. That's good. He's actually been on the longest, so.
He has, as a city council liaison, I kind of see him already having an assignment as the liaison. And he's active with a number of things. And so he didn't feel it'd be suitable as chair, but if a vice chair was needed, he would be willing to serve. But he too kind of, suggested Rita as our senior member.
I'd be willing to do it. It just whatever anybody wants. It's fine with me.
Well, the only question I would have is, will your being in Arizona in the winter affect I gather not, but it's probably worth asking the question.
That's a good question. I don't know if that would be a problem or not.
Well, you'd still be able to attend every meeting online.
I have been. Yep. I don't think
I think that's all it would take.
Yeah, I was only thinking about whether there's any need for the chair to consult with Dave or anybody else before the meeting. Generally,
that's always benefit, and I'm fine on the phone or on a Zoom or a Meet call as well. So I don't see it as a disqualifier, Steve, but
Okay, well
then when we get back to a real intense.
I nominate Rita for chair.
Okay.
Should we just do a slate of officers, perhaps? If we have a vice chair, perhaps Steve, you'd be willing to serve as vice, and then we've got you two up for it.
I'd be happy to do that.
Sounds good.
Great, let's make that motion.
Yeah. All right, then let's see. I guess maybe Bob could make that motion.
All right, so we got a slate of officers, a motion made by Bob for Rita Hinchman as chair and Steve Aldridge as vice chair. All in favor? I guess with the screen effect, we have to go one by one here. We'll say Rita.
We have to do aye.
Yep. Steve?
Yes.
Yep. And Bob?
Aye.
All right. Motion approved. Rita, you are the chair. You may take over the meeting. Thank you. Congratulations.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to do except go through this. We have to approve our last
The key thing is to read the agenda.
I did that actually, but I guess
consult your vice chair. When in doubt, consult your vice.
Oh, that's a good plan. That's a good plan. So really, we just have to approve our if there was any changes or anybody saw any errors to the last minutes for that. Actually, was back in December 1st, 2020 minutes. Was there any changes or?
Well, let's back up one, Rita. Let's back up one to the agenda. I have no additions.
Oh, you have not.
Want to get the agenda approved as well.
Okay, so we have to do that.
The agenda is distributed.
And do we have a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting?
I did.
Oh, okay. And Bob seconded it? Perfect. All right. And we need to vote on that? Steve?
Yes.
Aye. Okay. Bob?
Aye.
Rita? Aye. So the agenda is approved.
Move the approval of the minutes.
And then, yep, December minutes, you move to approve.
Second.
Second, okay. And we'll vote. Steve? To approve the December minutes?
Yeah, yes.
Bob?
Aye.
Rita, aye. Okay. And we will welcome our new board member when she comes on.
Let me give her another quick call. I know the phone was ringing there at the top of the meeting. But you
Okay.
may move on to the golf report.
Okay, and we have Paul.
Hey
Good to
there.
see you, Paul.
Yay, Rita.
So what do we have for our golf report today?
Well, let's see. I think that we're acquiring 3 new carts for the course. We'll have 3 brand new club cars that we'll be adding. Other than that, I mean, as far as our price structure, we're looking at last year we had a few concessions here and there, a few promotions. I think, this year, I think our activity is going to be very similar to last year with the COVID activity. We'll be operating, with the clubhouse closed to start with, that whole mode, pretty much duplicating what we did last year. We had some early play discounts that will probably do something similar to what we did last year. I think because there was such a demand in play last year, we had a couple of reasons. And one of them was because of the damage at Superior National. And then there was just a lot of interest in playing. The course was in good condition. So we had previously set up for a discount for early play. And we'll probably do something like that this year, but just probably maybe in through May. I think last year we had a program that went through mid-June.
If you do the discount for early play, what about doing it just for the afternoon? Since that's when we have the least play. We have, and lots of people will show up in the morning regardless of discount.
Yeah, I think that the dynamics of last year, I don't think that the people were coming because of the discount. I think they're just coming to play. So I think we'll try to offer some kind of a discount, but I don't think we're going to be I don't think that what I'm saying is I don't think we're going to have a strong need for discounting golf.
Okay. With regard to the 3 carts, Paul, my recollection is the cart garage was full in part because we rent space to people with private golf carts. Where are you going to put those 3? Is there room for them somehow without having to build a new building?
Well, yeah, I mean, last year what we did basically was in the evening hours we would there's about a 12-foot space down the middle of the whole building. We have some equipment in the back of the building but say the whole front third of the building where the carts are, there's a whole center section there that's used for, transport. And we just simply back those carts right into those areas and park them there.
Are the new carts gas or electric?
They're gas.
Okay, so you don't have to be near an outlet for them.
No, and basically as far as our electric situation, we're running 8 right now, and then we have one other cart that's in the system, and we don't have a lot of flexibility for having more electric carts based on our, the way that it's set up.
Okay.
What did we pay for those, Paul? Those carts?
Well, it came to 3 carts for like $12,000.
And how
Were they used?
No, they're brand spanking new with
For
a
$4,000 at least. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a good deal, and it's with a full warranty on it too.
Warranty.
Terrific.
That should help with the shortage.
Yeah.
And any news on, I know the last time we met, you had mentioned something about a building. Was there any for people to store their own cards?
Well, no, we were taking a look at trying to get the structure that was down at the park grounds, but
That's
the
right.
the way that was put together, it wasn't put together with screws, it was put together with nails. So
Okay.
yeah, we were advised basically not to get into that because it would you kind of you have to, it's just too labor intensive to try to take it apart and then that's kind of iffy as far as the damage you're doing to it, taking it apart with the nails and pulling every nail on the ridge.
Sure.
And it isn't something we could just pick up and put on a truck or something. I don't know how big it is.
Oh no, this was a full building, but some of the members had expressed wanting to look at that, getting another cart or a building so that they could have their carts
Right.
there. And I think that that's something we'll try to be visiting and trying to move to. I think it's a good idea. It'd be something where the members, we'd have to try to see what they could gather up as far as some sort of member co-op fund or whatever, to do something like that. But we do have space right behind our shop. There's a space back there that's big enough to put another building back there.
Right.
So what we probably do is just use that for a shop, and then take all of our stuff out of the existing building, and then have that all for car usage.
Okay. Is there anything else any other concerns or questions or news that you want to share, Paul, or that any board member has with Paul?
No, just one question of Paul, and that is, I'm hoping we're going to have some kind of a written marketing plan for this year. I like the fact that the emphasis this year is on marketing and growing the course youth patronage.
Yeah, I think that
something written down for us to look at by let's see, this is February, March would be nice, April would be critical.
Okay. Yeah, my thoughts really are along the lines of social media. Those signs, I think that they were effective, and then some of the promotions that we were doing. We had a kind of a late season play, season pass sort of thing. Things like that we could promote for fall play. I'm thinking now too, even with stimulus dollars coming up, might not be a bad idea to be promoting something, shortly,
It was the case that the YMCA tournament moved down to Superior National last year. There was a lot of resistance at the price, and I suspect that the Y can be brought back for its tournament at our course this year.
Okay, well, yeah, that's fine. I guess I hadn't heard anything about that. So that you say the price, or?
I didn't hear that they went out there for that. I thought it was canceled completely.
No, the YMCA had a tournament at Superior National in September. It was poorly attended and expensive.
Well, it was
played with my partner, sorry, and it was a good time, but it was a very different thing from the big event that we had the year prior.
Yeah, I think it was in October is when they put it, and at basically the end of the season, wasn't it? I think it was.
Basically, yep.
That's really late for a promotional tournament. I think when they had ours, they had actually the problem with our situation was that they were wanting to do it on prime time.
Mm-hmm.
So we had given them a Sunday at the end of July, I believe, which
is
is
it July or August?
that was prime time, So yeah, I think that they had their reasons for wanting to go down there. I think are I think that they have bigger plans for their tournament in the future. I don't know.
From a marketing perspective, that tournament the Y had a year ago, a year ago last summer, was marvelous. Some of the best golfers, the people who won the tournament and were just excellent, the guys who owned North Shore Waste, came away saying, "Hey, this is a great course." They were surprised.
It was a great marketing.
And I think we ought to build on that at least for this next year. And if they won a Sunday in July, I'd give it to them unless you got a better time.
So then you want to do like a Y tournament there, or like a Y not tournament or something, or?
Well, the YMCA, you can call it whatever you want. I would let the head of the Y make the decision because she loves golf and she's a great promoter. I thought we had a really great event a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I can pursue Emily on that and see what her thoughts are.
Really good.
By now, Bob, you've figured out that one of my big interests is golf.
My goal for the year is to relearn the game.
We'll look forward to you out there. Do you live in the city of Grand Marais?
I hope that Michael Valentini will come down the trail and teach me.
Oh, that's marvelous.
I think everyone that comes out there's got that same quest.
Bob, you should know that maybe because you weren't here when we did it, but there's a small discount for residents of Grand Marais for the season pass. I think it's like 15% or something.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah.
I'd like to get my brother up from Texas. We'll do it.
There you go.
Is it 50% discount for? Was it that high?
1.5.
1.5. Okay.
We're going to give so long as the Canadian border's on there, we're going to give them 50% off.
Okay, Paul. Anything else for the golf report, or any more questions for Paul?
I wonder, does Francis, does our new member know how to turn on her mic and her
I think they're working on that, Steve. Seems like they're working on that with her.
Yes, Frances is with us. She'll be, we'll have her up next. But I do have just a question, because when I was on the phone with Frankie, I missed the initial discussion here, and I thought I heard talk of rates or where are we at with rates. That's usually a this time of year discussion. Did you guys talk about that already?
There were no decisions made. We did talk about whether there would be any kind of early season discount, and my suggestion to Paul was if we have one, have it be in the afternoons, not in the mornings. And his sense was that we don't need much by way of early season discount.
Okay.
We will have to come up with published rates soon for seasonal and games, I'm sure, for the literature and marketing. So
Yes, yeah, that's exactly why I circled back. The typical timeline on this is we talk about it in the January, February meetings, and we present a RAC card in March. So that's still on schedule here. If we want to, Paul and I can work on some ideas and present rates in March.
that would be good.
And now would be the chance to talk about any ideas and brainstorms.
Paul
and I have already agreed on not a lot of discounting, not a lot of promotional gimmicking. It seems like golf is a very in demand right now, and our product up there is very good quality. And so there's when the prime season is upon us, we need to capitalize on that.
I wanted to put one idea in the hopper for consideration, and that's a proposal that we link up with Silver Bay to have an 18-hole game, 9 holes here and 9 holes there. And the thought is that if you start at Silver Bay and play in the morning, they collect the 9-hole rate, and then the difference between that and the 18-hole rate goes to the second course. And that we do a joint promotion for the Canadians coming down to stop here on their way, and for the people coming up from the cities, and see whether or not Norma would be interested in that. Mm-hmm. Whether it would make financial sense.
That could be something we look at in future meetings for different ideas, but I think probably if you have any input, anyone on rates, or it sounds like you two have discussed it and we don't need to do anything different with rates, and we really don't need to offer a big promotion at the beginning is what Paul was saying, like we did last year.
Well, we'll see how conditions turn out too. There's always that wild card of
Makes a huge difference. We had a nice
what's
spring.
the course going to look like in May. But yeah. So we'll have some, a rate card written up for March. And Steve, we definitely hear you on this partnership with Silver Bay, but you're right about the last part, where is Norma interested is the first feeler we need to put out there. Paul, do you have a relationship with her?
Yeah, I know Norma well. Yeah, I think that in general, business was pretty good last year in a general way. I think to do something like that, you'd probably want to talk to her about doing something on a day that's a quiet day, if there is a quiet day, just to boost business, something different.
Not the weekend, probably.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The weekends are probably, going to be busy enough to, or, are you talking about like some sort of a tournament thing, or?
No, I was just thinking that somebody wants to play 18 holes of golf and they don't want it to play the same 9-hole course twice. It's not part of Silver Bay. You could play here in the morning and there in the afternoon and still get back to Canada for the evening if you wanted to, and vice versa for Duluth or the cities.
Okay. Yeah, I'd rather have them go 2 laps at our place, but I think we can certainly talk to Norma about, if she has any ideas about doing kind of a co-op thing.
Sounds good. Anything else? So we'll look at March for a rate card then. Okay. Yep. So should we move on to, well, Francis is here. So welcome, Francis. Oh, we still don't have, can you push your sound button? There you go. There you go.
I've been here listening to you, but I just couldn't get my picture on. So
welcome. And do you prefer Francis or Frankie?
Frankie. That's it.
Okay. Well, welcome to this group of the park board.
Well, it's
glad to have you. And push your button again for your sound.
Oh,
there you go.
I can't get the whole screen. Don't you have 9 people on here?
I have like 8 right now, or 9.
I get 6. So I
Frankie,
don't know how.
For those of us who don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm turning old, I tell you that. And I'm living in Homestead now, but I love it here. And it's been really nice because we got our shots last week, our vaccine. So we were pleased with that. But I've been on lots of committees, Public Health and Human Services, and I can't name them all. There's 9 of them. So,
Wonderful.
But the Garden Club is one that's really connected to the city. I was on the Highway 61 committee. And a lot of interesting things.
So you can bring a lot of knowledge to the board for different topics that we have.
I hope so.
Great. Thank you.
Frankie and I have been working together for a number of years on active living and Highway 61. And I believe now she's on the Creative Economic Collaborative, the CEC group that is planning the highway amenities and, kiosks and all the sort of arts and pedestrian improvements outside of the right of way. And so that's where she was recruited off of that committee when we were talking about the community connection over by the folk school and, a lot of the projects in the highway that have the park department involvement, be it the trees or the public art. So Frankie's got all that knowledge.
Yeah, that board asked me to go on your board. So here I am.
Well, welcome. We don't have a city council report since Craig isn't here. So that moves us on to James and the special event application for Soundgarden. Can you tell us a little bit about that, James?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know how much you guys have been filled in from various other things. Like I presented actually at the CEC meeting back in March because they were really excited about it. But it was right when their meetings went to Zoom for the first time. And I don't know, Frankie, if you were on that meeting when I was talking about the Soundgarden and Harbor Park, but and I don't know if you remember, Frankie, I met you when we did a project there back in 2013 was the first time I did a project in Harbor Park, and we were doing some plantings with Catalyst, the dance company, and Emily, and you and some of the other members from the original Garden Club members were like coming out to celebrate with us there at the park.
Yeah.
And it's been such a special place. I mean, that experience inspired me to want to do something more. I just always been in love with. I mean, I've loved Marais, but particularly Harbor Park, and the whole story about how it came to be. David told us back then, walking through like, well, this used to be the gas station, and it was because the community came together, and so many people put their hearts into this and really created this place that's for everyone, as opposed to being another private development. And it's just such an amazing place. And every time I'm there, I not only appreciate it myself to be able to be there, but you just see other people just pull up, get out of their cars and walk in or walk over or whatever. It's just such a special spot. And so in 2018, I did a project where I wanted to do a water suite, I called it, of 4 different sound gardens. They're these sound installations, kind of these experiences where you can just walk through an outdoor space, but there's a concert happening because there's all these little speakers that are playing all around the space. And I'm like a composer, but I instead of having like an orchestra, I create all the sounds myself by recording them, and then I can put them. It's like the equivalent of somebody saying, well, I'm going to put the first violin over here. I'm going to put the second violin here and the flute section over here, so that as you walk through the park, the music is changing and happening all around you. And it really, because it's spatialized like that, it really connects you to the actual physical place that you're spending time in. And it's this way of gathering in a place, but this was before COVID, but it's actually a way that people can gather without and go to a concert, but not have to all be bunched up and watching one, and looking at one stage or something. There's no focal point. It's part of kind of the aesthetic that I'm going for, is not having any fixed focal points, so that there's just layering happening, and it's self-guided. So audience members can just walk through at their own pace. You could walk through for 10 minutes and be done, or you could hang out for 3 or 4 hours, and people do both. And so in 2018, I did 4 sound gardens, one for each season. And the spring sound garden I did in Harbor Park, because I basically picked 4 sites around the state that I was just that were really inspiring and special to me, or I wanted to spend some time and really create some music for each spot. And so I did that, and it was a crazy learning curve, because this whole model I was still figuring out. Dave remembers I'd be trying to describe it to him, and I didn't fully know exactly how it was gonna happen. But had a bunch, partnered with a lot of people in Grand Marais. It was part of our Art Along the Lake then. Kirsty had worked with me when I had done the previous project through the art colony, and so she was really excited about it. And then Mila had a bunch of the kids from the junior high school art department contributing ceramic urns that had the speakers in them. And Neil Sherman was doing painting, and several musicians like Will Moore and others were part of the orchestra. And Rose and Erica Tiernis were part of the choir. And basically it happened over Memorial Day weekend. We spent Saturday rehearsing and getting set up, and then Sunday was the event. It went from 12 to noon to 5. And then we were done. It was Memorial Day weekend, so it was kind of before the real crush of the tourist season, both in the campground and just in town in general, but it was warm enough that we could do an outdoor event and be, fairly confident that it wouldn't be snowed out. That, and it went so well. It was kind of like we were just figuring it all out as we went. And then I had an opportunity to actually try to create a recording, like a CD of that soundtrack, even though it's like 40 different parts throughout the park. And so this past year, I was mixing down all of those pieces to create basically a stereo album version of the Spring Soundgarden that was composed for Harbor Park. And so this event in the spring is a combination of celebrating the 15-year anniversary of the park and how it came to be, the story of it, everything from, Gene Erickson deciding like, hey, maybe I should, maybe there's a way to turn this land back to the city, and Frankie and the rest of the garden club coming together and putting in so many hours and so much hard kind of work and all the fundraising that had to go in. It was part of my research of doing things at the History Museum, going through their archives of the history of Harbor Park, not just the photographic archives, but all the newspaper clippings of kind of every little development that into that process. It was really amazing to look at. I mean, so many different funding streams had to be coordinated and accessed on a national level, on a state level, and local, municipal, county stuff. It was really, man, it was like 6 years, right, Dave? Wasn't it like, didn't it start in like 2000 and then the park finally opened in 2006? So anyway.
Well, what background we have? We have the 4 pages that you gave us, the 2-page application and the 2-page description. Yeah. That's what we know before you talked.
Yeah, great. So, and there's that little video I shared that you should be able to take a look at if you want to actually see sort of what was happening. Some of those things will be a little different this time because of COVID. We're just expecting that, masks and having people keep distant. And but really the event as we did it was pretty COVID friendly, as I don't know if that's a good term, but but again, like Mila's on board again, and Neil Sherman, and it's part of Art Along the Lake, so it's part of that activity of people going to galleries. But then this is an outdoor gallery essentially, where they'll see a bunch of Neil Sherman paintings, and they'll see other pieces that are part of it, and see poetry and storytelling. And the additional layer that is new this year is that I've been working on with this new technology where I can take audio files. So these could be some stories like that Stacy's written for the piece, or poetry that's been done, but also oral history from people who were involved. And Frankie, I'm looking at you, with Harbor Park coming to be, as well as just from the local community of people sharing their stories about that site, either before it became Harbor Park or since, their memories. And so this is something that we're doing. The Cook County History Museum and Historical Society was partnered with me last time, but this time Carrie actually wanted to do this, and then she left. But Katie, who's taken over, is really excited about this. We're doing basically an oral history of Harbor Park, and we're compiling this, and we're going to be doing audio recordings of different people telling stories about the park and how it came to be. And the technology I have is such that instead of what we did last time, which was people would gather around Stacy as she walked through the park, and they'd gather close to her and she'd tell a story, or we'd have one of the poets read their poetry. That's not really safe or tenable. Instead, what's going to happen is that I can embed them in the cloud, and people can have a free app on their phone and can walk, and it's a GPS triggered thing, so that when they walk into that part of the park, there can be a poem or a picture posted there, but they'll be able to hear Gene Erickson or Frankie or someone actually tell that story when they're in that spot. It's triggered when they walk into that spot, and the audio part lives it's not a physical thing. It's just that there's this streaming, and on their phone, a photograph can come up when they are listening to that piece of audio. The cool thing about that is that those stories can stay in the park moving forward, so that at any point someone could pull up. This is part of the idea, and something that's like a little bit of the bigger picture. But if the park board was interested in something like this, it could be something where people pull up, they walk into the park, and right next to the sign where it says, pick up after your dog, and here's the bin to put the doggy bags in. If you'd like, if you can scan this QR code on your phone, and it will open up this app, and you can do an audio tour in the park of the history of Harbor Park that was commemorated as part of the 15-year anniversary celebration. And that could live on any season of the year. It just, people would literally get plugged in and can walk through and hear these things. So that's
if we were looking at a permanent part of it, installation, you'd probably have to tell us what you have in mind in some detail, I would think, because none of us do this sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Essentially, what it would, the only thing that would be kind of a physical permanent thing, as I can imagine, would be a sign, maybe a couple spots in the park or just one spot that just says, hey, if you'd like to do this, and have a QR code on there that people scan with the phone.
Right.
Give a little explanation, but other than that, it's something that's I can it can be edited offline and changed or adjusted. I actually have a demonstration version in the park set up right now with a couple of Stacy stories and some of the audio files, because I was demonstrating it in December for Katie and some of the other and Neil and some of the other folks and Will. When I come up again, or if anyone's interested in doing it, I can walk you through just to try it. It's a free app. You download it on your phone, and then you just enable GPS and you open it up, and it shows you, it has a map on your phone of the space that you're in, and it shows where you are, and it shows how to walk into these zones that will start playing a particular part of the audio.
So James, are you setting up on Saturday, May 29th, and it'll only be going Sunday, May 30th, or are you setting up like the 28th so we can have 2 days of walkthroughs?
Yeah, Art Along the Lake is the 2-day event. It's Saturday and Sunday. And last time, just because it was the first time we were doing it and I was just trying to figure it out, Saturday was the rehearsal day and Sunday was the event day. This time, because we know a little bit more about what we're doing, and I've got more kind of volunteers behind it and just help, and we kind of, and it's a 2-day event. And because we were just worried, like, boy, I didn't want to put all our eggs in the one basket if we do that, and then Sunday's bad weather. So it was like to plan it for both days so that, we got the best chance of at least having one good day. So Friday would be more of the setup day.
Okay.
And doing the installation and doing some little light rehearsing with some of the performers in the afternoon. There'll be, there's some people are coming up from the cities. Some of the artists and cast folks are coming up from the cities, but there's a lot of people from in town that are and in the area that are, part of it as well.
James, you estimated 200 people might attend. How does that compare with what we had in 2018?
Yeah, boy, it's really hard to gauge that kind of thing. I mean, there is, because it was just this flow. The park never felt at all crowded, or even close. But I think that's probably about right, as far as last year, or not last year, in 2018 when we did it. But we didn't have a way to really, click numbers, or we didn't have anyone doing that. It was just kind of me checking in with the other folks that were involved. Well, how many people do you think were there? And who knows? I mean, last time nobody really knew what it was until it was happening. And it's like, oh my God, I wish I had told my friends, or, that kind of thing. So it could be that there's more interest this year. The whole COVID thing this is all new territory for all these kinds of events. And so I'm holding everything really lightly as far as, what do we do and how do we do it? The whole design of these events is that they're very open house and open, people can come and go. There's no admission. There's no, there's not really gatekeeping happening, in general. And with the 7 or 8 entrances to the park, it's kind of like people kind of flow in and out the whole time. If we get to a point where there's a concern because either it just seems like we're going to have a lot of people, that's just something that I just figured it would be something that we'd just be in communication about that with Dave and talking about it. And we can ahead of time certainly have some contingencies of what we think if this, then this. It feels like there's like kind of moving targets between just what the health department recommendations are, and also just with, well, what's the weather going to be like, and how many people do we expect to be coming up, and things like that.
You'll have crew down at the park during the whole event.
Oh yeah.
So okay. So
Yeah.
if it ends up, getting overcrowded or any of those concerns, we could certainly.
Right.
For that.
Yeah. My biggest, my question or my concern is just, I don't feel like it's in my authority to be like telling they can't go to Harbor Park at any point, right? But if it's something where you guys decide, like, no, we want to do this event, but we also want to make sure that it's safe, and we want to, have some kind of a, like, we'll only enter at one spot and exit at another spot, something like that, right? Like, that can be signage, and then greeters that are just suggesting that to people. That's one way to kind of like minimize the clustering that could potentially happen if you had more people. And then another option then is beyond that is to actually be more prescribed about it being a one-way kind of path through, like, so as people enter, they go on a prescribed thing and then can kind of come out. But I didn't want to presume that I would know what the best way to do that, or if you guys would even feel comfortable with that kind of control. So I really felt I put that in the plan, that I tried to really emphasize that it would be a very kind of collaborative, kind of creative problem solving, knowing that we want to have a good event and we want to have it be safe, and and we also don't want to upset anyone or have people feel like, why couldn't I go into the park?
I think it's a nice idea and a nice prequel to this summer where, last summer was pretty tough for us in Grand Marais, and it'd be a nice way to open our summer season. That tends to be a busy weekend and is busier every year in Grand Marais. So I think it's a nice idea.
Two things that may be of interest, James.
Yeah.
There are a couple of food carts in town these days. One that exists because we had a fire that burned down.
Yeah, I know. The Sassy Spoon.
And so it's possible that they would be interested in setting up somewhere near your event so people could buy food on the way in or on the way out, or both, but still not interrupt your concert. There was a second point, but I've lost it. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Yeah, I was on a whole thing of like, well, if we're minimizing, trying to make a contactless event, we're not selling anything. Like, even if we have printed programs, normally we'd have greeters actually handing those out to people as they enter, just so that there was like a connection and people would know that there's someone if they have questions, but I'm thinking like, wow, rather than that, maybe we have a place where people can just grab a program and put it back, or like recycle it or something, but to minimize contact. So as far as food, I don't, of course, there were people were having picnics in there. They always do, just bringing their walking over from Java Moose or whatever with a coffee or. I
guess is that food on the edges, but that didn't ruin the concert, but increase attendance on the margin.
Yeah, I'm open to any. Kirsty's also very. She was the first person I went back to in this fall when I was like, "Hey, is this even? Can we do this? Do you guys even want to still try to do this next year?" And she and Lily were just like, "Oh yeah, no, we, yes, they really wanted to figure out, whatever it was to make it work." And they've been super supportive. So that gave me confidence that, okay, they believe in this. And Katie, same thing. And, everybody who I've come back to is just like, oh yeah, this is going to be such a nice way to, like you said, to start the season and celebrate that place. It's just, I don't get chills when I think about how.
I like your idea of having people go in, one way and out the other, and then there's not several people coming in from different areas and grouping, getting stuck at one spot or something. People may feel more comfortable if it's like that. I think that you've put a lot of thought into it, for COVID. And Dave, what do you feel about this? Does this have to go through our attorney or anything like that? No.
Not at all. No. This idea of COVID preparedness planning, was new to us last year. We asked groups with special event applications to submit them. James nailed it with his document. He's been working with both the state and the local county health, and this is 4 months away as well. So at this stage, it's looking really good. The only other point I would make, or the only other piece of this, was a camping component for the cast and crew, for James's production crew. We were able to waive the camping fees for that back in 2018. It just sort of made a little bit of a thank you.
I think then as well, it depends on, is the campground, I mean, it's not totally full on that weekend. I know it's busier every year, but I would say.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, I think 2 or 3 sites we used last time, James. I mean, it's difficult to project how many actually. You were looking at maybe 12, 15 folks in the crew.
Yeah, I think it was about between 15 and 20 last time, and we ended up with the one site that was kind of where there's actually 2 or 3 sites on that little triangle.
Yeah, they dropped in 10 sites down by the marina.
Right, and you were able to just kind of like block those because they were drop-ins, and so we were able to do that, which was great. And I'm planning to be there the whole week leading up to the event, kind of getting all these pieces together, and holding some rehearsals in the park and things like that. So, and then most of the cast will be coming up on like Wednesday and Thursday, those that are up from the cities. And I think last time we did a similar thing where I had kind of a deadline for those folks to know when I needed to know to be able to tell you, Dave, like how many to expect. I think that's probably what we should plan on again this time. Last time, part of what happened was I had some people that were going to be in the park, and then they ended up getting a B&B or something, and then other folks. There were some people that just weren't able to come. Their ride fell through or whatever, and so it was a kind of a variety of stuff. So just having a little bit of a buffer around the numbers would be.
Yeah, no, we're fluid enough or flexible enough with our drop-in sites for that to work.
We had those drop-ins, and then I feel like there were like 2 or 3 that we had over on that were like our overflow, and we did end up using those on the weekend when most of my rest of the cast came up. Like I don't know, like along the trail, like right up along the trail there.
Yep.
RV site there, like just
bike trail.
Yep. So that's what we had last time. I don't know if you have numbers from last time. I mean, I can try to look back. I feel like it was in that 15 to 20 people. I think it kind of fluctuated.
It was easy to manage.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Yeah, it was mostly a matter of us just like me telling you how many we had, and then not knowing how many mirror tags we needed, and and then I just told people to go to the office. It was I was able to just send them there, because there were times where I was actually working in the park when people were arriving. That was the biggest kind of trick was coordinating that so that they could arrive and get their tent set up without me having to come back and
Dave, in your judgment, are we ready for a motion to approve the application as it's been made, with the understanding that you and James will work out any details that need to be done?
I would support that.
Mm-hmm. And to waive the camping.
I can move that, or maybe you want to move it, Bob.
I didn't see anything about funding. Where does the money come from?
So the State Arts Board, I got they have an arts touring grant program for artists to be able to travel in the state of Minnesota outside of their home city, hometowns, to be able to bring their art to other places. And so that's the bulk of the funding. And then there were some matching funds that I was getting, that Kirsty and Lily were applying for. So Visit Cook County was supplying the rest of it at this point.
Is this legacy amendment funding?
What's that?
Legacy amendment funding?
Yep. The State Arts Board is legacy amendment funding. I'm not sure where the stuff that Visit Cook County is coming from. And the CEC actually there was some grants that they were going to apply for to also help contribute last spring. And so that's something I'm kind of wanting to make sure all the pieces are in place and that we have the go ahead before I circle back to to Mary about that, but well, that's where the funding stuff is at this point.
Doesn't require that the state legislature get along this year.
No, it's out. No, I mean, it was, yeah, no, it was a dispersed this past year already, actually. So
We worked really hard on that legacy amendment.
yeah, it's been a game changer for sure. Just on so many levels. Yeah.
So do we have a motion?
So Bob,
Go ahead, Steve.
Bob motion to approve it, subject to the details being worked out with Dave and Jim. And if there's something that you think is really important to bring back to the board, you can.
Great. Thank
That
you.
sounds good. Yeah, I think with the time here, we have several meetings, and if anything comes up, we'll be definitely alerting you. We'll definitely have a review in May, at the beginning of May. We'll make sure everybody knows what to expect.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say the other pieces was one that Dave thought, and who knows if this has changed a lot, but when I was asking about recruiting additional folks that might want to help out and volunteer, as greeters for like a part of the shift or whatever, he had thought that there were a number of the folks that are the regular that come up and, are staying in the campground that are just dying to kind of get involved and do things like that. So that would be a great help as well to kind of keep track, whether it's me giving you some language, Dave, for a posting and that you can direct people to, and then they can, contact me if they're interested, and then we can have some, how that's going to look, we'll know closer to the date, but definitely trying to have just some help with, it's mostly greeters, just people that can either hand out a program, make sure folks know to put on their mask, or, just that kind of thing as people are entering. And if we do have directions about, which way to go and things like that, we have enough, we have folks that could just like be on an hour shift or something just to do some of that would be great.
I think we won't have any trouble. It seems like there's a lot of people that probably help with that.
Yeah.
So Steve, are you proposing the motion then to approve Soundgarden for that weekend?
I will.
Frankie?
I think Bob made the motion and I seconded it.
Oh,
Okay. So let's vote. Steve?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And Frankie?
yes.
And Rita, yes. Well, thank you, James. It was a pleasure talking with you. If you need any more help, you know
Thanks.
where to come, and we're here for you.
The one thing you can all help with is if you yourselves or have some stories about Harbor Park and what it's meant to you or about that site. And Frankie, I'm definitely I'll definitely get in touch with you, because my plan is to come up and I can record people telling their stories with some of my audio equipment. But Katie's also looking at, there's a whole way now that I guess that the museum is developing a portal for people to be able to submit stories more easily, just right direct to the museum. So she's going to have something set up for that as well, that I think they're going to try to share via some social media stuff. So people can just submit their stories and put a photo in, if they have a photo of that memory, and that can be part of what people get to hear and listen to and look at. So, but if any of you know other people who you might think of, like either they were involved with the garden club, or they were involved with this process, or they just have a really great Harbor Park story, that's what we're just going to try to collect and gather all that as part of this kind of oral history project to commemorate this place. I don't think people realize, I think they take it for granted. They come up to Grand Marais and they're like, oh yeah, here's a park. And they don't realize how different it could have been, and how different it was even 20 years ago,
Do we make a motion, Dave, to keep that up there during, for future? So even when Soundgarden isn't there, we can have people, screen scan and get history. Do we have to do anything to approve that, or?
That's a good question, Rita. I don't
I
think
think it's
so.
a really neat idea. And, if we have something for sign.
What I would suggest is that, what we'll do is we'll have the event, and we'll have all these pieces, and there'll be like a version of that. And then if you guys decide we want to go ahead with kind of, we can actually be more specific about like, what should that particular thing look like, because for the actual event, there's going to be a lot of different layering happening and so many different things. And then we can move, after that, then it's like, well, what portion of this, because you'll all have, a lot of you will probably have experienced it, and then we'll have an idea, and then you guys can decide like, well, okay, well, what do we want to put into this other piece, and we could kind of design that more specifically.
That'd be nice. Not let it fall on the wayside. I mean, we'd like to continue that. I think it's a really neat idea for the park.
Cool. Yeah. It would be it'd be a lot of fun to work on. So
thank you, James.
Yeah. Thank you all for taking time and for supporting this, and really appreciate it. And it's like nice to see all you, because you're all up there and I'm down here, and it's at least somehow by association, I'm up there by the lake. So
thank you, James.
All right. Thanks for including me and inviting me today. Really appreciate it.
We'll be in touch.
Okay. Take care.
So update on 2021 reservations.
Yeah, thanks, Rita. So February 2nd, and boy, are we breathing easier. We've gotten through the busy times, January 1st and February 1st were our opening dates for the summer season of July and August for the reservations. We didn't meet in January, so I thought I'd maybe share the good news on an email that things went smooth on January 1st. The online booking machine was turned on at 8 a.m. and 300 some reservations came in that day. That was a Friday, so we weren't really. I stopped by the office just to make sure it was, working, and then we took the rest of the weekend off. We came in Monday, January 4th, and unlike any other January, there was no big scene. There was no lines. There was no newspaper reporters. There was just phone ringing. A steady phone ringing, and it was July, and it was a lot of fixes. It was a lot of like, we booked over the weekend online, but we got something wrong, and so can you please fix it for us? That's lately the bigger call now, is we booked online, but we screwed it up. So most of July booked out in January. A lot of wraparound bookings towards the end of July through the early August. That did happen a month ago, but not to the feared extent of like full book out. We still had sites for Fisherman's Picnic weekend available yesterday. When we started the August arrival dates yesterday, it was true. There were many wraparound late July through early August. Maybe half the park was booked through about August 3rd or 4th or 5th. But then coming into that weekend of the picnic, we did have a pretty good inventory available yesterday morning for just the picnic people for the 5th through the 8th of August was the popular date. Yesterday morning, that's the Thursday through Sunday of Fisherman's Picnic. And most people got what they wanted. The online machine was buffering. It had a sort of a queuer in, they called it. Like the programmers that book your site were aware that it was a busy day. And so they kept an eye on things, and they put in I think it slowed things down, but things were processed in the order they were received. And yet a few folks, they thought they were going to get the site, and then it wasn't there when it came time to put their name and info into it. And so there were a few frustrated folks, but by and large, this new system's been very successful. So really
good. That's good.
Yes.
And it could be just that people are unsure that we're even going to have Fisherman's Picnic, possibly.
That's a lot of speculation. They're booking you regardless, though. I mean, that's
good.
We're kind of, I think Sam especially has, summed it up by, it's not going to be the usual picnic. Mm-hmm. It might be scaled down, similar to last year, where it was just, fish burgers and a raffle. Maybe we can do fireworks this year, but with the highway construction and just the downtown disruption, it's going to be an interesting season of.
It would certainly be possible to have a Fisherman's Picnic golf tournament of some kind.
A golf tournament?
Yeah.
Oh, why not?
Why not?
So, we're feeling good. I'm feeling good. Like I said, we got the biggest 2 months are behind us now, July and August. And we have a bit of a tracker going here where we've got like 1,800 reservations so far. Strangely, very close to what we did last January, 1,870. But what's missing from these are the September and October reservations. And, those will start in March and then April. And so we won't really know where we stand until April on are we trending up or down on the reservations. But it's looking good. It's looking like up. Any questions on that?
One quick question, Dave, and that is, you mentioned you've had 300 reservations already right at the beginning of January. How many reservations total do you have in a summer?
Oh, that's a great one, Steve. 6, 7, 8,000. Sam, you got any feel for that?
It's usually like 6, 7. Yeah, you're right on it. It's probably about 7,000 or so.
7,000?
Yeah, it's a lot, but we do see this trend where we, do about 20% of them in that first booking window. Well, I'll just keep going here on the marketing review. This is something Steve had asked for earlier this month. I think he was mostly getting at the golf side of marketing, as we know we need to step that game up. Social media, we feel, is the way for golf. It's a lot of targeted ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads. That seems like a proven winner when it comes to marketing those sort of niche sports like skiing and golf. But in the grand scheme of what we do for the Grand Marais Recreation Area is sort of buy all-inclusive ads for both camping, boating, and golfing. And so you go on to some of these sites like Visit Cook County or Explore Minnesota, and it's the Grand Marais Recreation Area that is what's listed. And yes, we're a campground, and yes, we're a marina, and yes, we're a golf course, and we sort of present that all-inclusive idea of the Grand Marais Recreation Area. I've really stopped on print ads. I'll be honest, like I'm on the Visit Cook County board and the Grand Marais Tourism Association board, and so I followed their marketing closely, and they're into digital now and social media, and print is really shrinking. Or we didn't print a brochure, for example, like a 3-fold color brochure. We don't really have that kind of collateral anymore. We stopped going to the trade show. We just, especially for the campground, we feel like people can find us very easily by just Googling North Shore Camping or Grand Marais Campground. And so the biggest buys we do, I think, are business underwriting. We share with the North House Folk School and the Art Colony and the radio in their network and their students and their listings, and sort of that the marketing collaborative of the whole town, where if people are looking in Grand Marais, they're going to find the campground because we're partners with those institutions and we're listed on their sites. So it's a modern age now. We're online. People are finding us on Google. We rate very highly. Our website's very well established. It's optimized. Search words are in there that people are searching for. We do 26,000 visitors to our website, I think was what we saw last year. The golf site is newer. Gunflint Hills Golf I created when Paul started, so maybe it's been over a year now. But that site seems optimized and easy to find and easy to navigate, and it's not getting the same amount of traffic as the campground site. But there's backlinks. We link directly to the golf course from our site, and so we like the way we link. We like the way Visit Cook County links to us. Nina's North Shore Visitor is a huge driver. Nina Simonovitz has got a really good brand, and her North Shore Visitor site, we buy a premium listing there. That gets us a lot of referrals, a lot of traffic. And so, we feel like we've got it figured out. It's a small budget. We only have about 13,000 in the recreation area budget. The golf has about 3,500. And so, relative to most businesses where they say put 10% of your gross into marketing, like we're nowhere near that. We're not doing the $100,000 marketing campaign. It's, $15,000. And yeah, that's right, Rita. We don't need to. So, this is all just kind of an FYI, more or less. And we're certainly open to new ideas. And I'm keen on digital for the golf course.
Cool.
Nice. Last bit of interest here then is the Parkside access part. The public water access update is, we've been talking about this every month. Down here at the end of the road, the shop, the old Public Works garage, has been bid for demolition. The award has gone to Vite out of the Twin Ports area. and they're scheduled to begin demolition any day now. Literally, like it was to be last month, now it's this month. So the old, there was a Morton building that was disassembled and repurposed by a local party that was auctioned off. That's already been removed. And so now all that remains is the yellow shop, the boneyard of the old PUC area. The dog pound is going to be demolished during this period of the next month. The city and the county are working on a suitable replacement. And the DNR has the breakwater plans out for bid. Those were announced a couple weeks ago, mid-January. The DNR is the project manager. They're collecting bids until I believe this Thursday, the 4th. And so they'll take this month to process those bids. They'll award the contract late February, early March to the breakwater construction firm. The intent is to get the heavy material in March before road bans come into effect in April. And there's a trout spawn moratorium for working in the water until June. So we'll see a little bit of idleness down there in April and May perhaps, but then starting in June, construction will be commencing on the breakwater, just the in the water breakwater. The land site itself is scheduled for 2022. Those plans are not yet complete or out for bid, but they will be this season, this coming summer is when the DNR hopes to complete the land side plans. The site will be closed to the public. This is, going to impact the boat launch ability down there this season and probably next. The public access across the bay at the Coast Guard station, which is currently the official public access on a DNR map, will be available. We all know parking may not be available on a busy Saturday afternoon, but we'll certainly do what we can, maybe take some extra measures and set up cones and signs to try to reserve a few slips for anglers across the bay. But it's going to be a rough couple seasons for this boat launch down here being closed. I've got some out of the box ideas for maybe the 2 roll-in docks that are down there now won't be needed, and maybe we can position those into the marina here, back in this end of the bay here, down in the swamp, as I say, where the little boats can park, and maybe we can open up to like 4 more slips for little fishing boats, probably from the campground, and so they won't be so put out by not having a launch here. But yeah, this is really exciting news. Once the DNR, awards the contract, we'll have that news for you March or April, and definitely keep you in the loop as this progresses. But look for demolition of the buildings in the dog pound this month.
Big news.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're up to old business, and that's the seasonal site placement policy. Did everybody print a copy of that?
Anyone need any explanation? It's pretty self-explanatory. We've been talking about this for a few months. When we adjusted rates, we had talked about adjusting policy. Interesting, I looked to the master plan, the goal 6, it's all about making money, and the policy 6.2, it's all about exploring a lottery or other means to rotate and charge premiums. We're already charging premiums, which is nice, but the idea of a lottery is nothing new. This was 2009.
So that's already been brought up.
Well, yes and no, Rita. It was put into the master plan, but it hasn't been officially explored. So here we are.
You and I met a while back and talked about some different options for that, those spots, because that list is so long. And I know Sam had, started checking into things and different campgrounds. Wasn't it, Sam, that they got deposits for those spots and it cleared up their list quite a bit?
They got deposits to put your name on the waiting list, not for a spot.
Okay, put your name on the list.
Like, so yeah, if that makes sense. So you had to pay like $100 in order to just put your name on the request list, and that's where they put their list down because nobody wanted to put money down.
Right. Was that a non-refundable deposit, or what was that? Do you know?
I guess I don't totally know that. I just know that the guy said that it would go towards their first month rent or their seasonal rent or whatever.
So I had brought up with Dave that, and this was brought up with me, talked about it with a few different people in the campground, but doing a type of a auction for those sites on possibly like February 1st or March 1st or whenever we know what sites are going to be open. And then sending out, emails or getting people used to the fact that this is when they need to check the site, that those spots will be open, and have people bid basically like an auction on those spots. It's non-refundable. It doesn't go to their space fees. It's just a fee that would benefit the park, bring in more income. We could designate it for using it for something for improvements on the seasonal side or what have you. I know Dave said we already have money in the account for those types of things. But it's an interesting option. I think there'd probably be a lot of people that would do that would possibly bid for those spots. And it would alleviate, there wouldn't be a list anymore. It would alleviate a lot of work in the office as far as that goes. I don't know what people's thoughts are, questions about that idea. It was just a thought, idea that came up.
When you talk about an auction,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about the highest bidder gets the space for the time that they're seeking.
Yes, they would get that spot until they didn't have it anymore, until they passed away or till they gave it up. That's kind of our policy now, isn't it, Dave? You can't transfer the spot to a family member or anything like that. And it would list the size of the spots so people would know whether their rig would fit. It would list where it is in the park. I mean, there may be somebody that a prime spot comes open and they say, I don't know what people would bid for spots. I have a feeling that people may bid quite a bit if that's something they're wanting to live in for the summer, for as long as they're alive. I think it's kind of an option to fill those spots and make a little bit of extra money doing it and get rid of the 300 people on the list waiting for spots.
If I understand it correctly, this would only apply to a limited number of more preferable spaces. Am I correct? There would still be a lot of spaces.
It'd be all the seasonal spots. Is there 90 spots, Dave?
Yeah, it would apply to monthly. Well, I'll just say seasonal from now on. I won't even call them monthly. But yeah, just seasonal sites and just vacant seasonal sites, which they result from the returning seasonal passing on them, right? So just as I explained our first right of refusal process on seasonal sites, we have roughly 90 of those sites in this east side and over in the middle of the park. Some are nicer than others. We have 33 or so that we have in a prime, rate structure, and those are like at the marina and over by the pavilion. They have the big views, and but so any of those 90 sites, we just got done getting deposits from those, let's say 90 or so people. Every year, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of them don't come back. When they don't come back, it's a vacant seasonal site. It goes to this internal process of a waiting list that you're already here, you're looking for that better site. We go through that list. It's a short list. Then we go to the big list. You're not in yet, you want any site, you're willing to take any old site, is the general waiting list. That's the couple hundred of people list. And so that only happens in this period of February to April. And it happens around, on any given year, 2 to 10 sites. This year is exceptional, I think, with maybe COVID, maybe just we didn't place sites last March, but we probably have closer to 10 sites this year that are seasonal and don't have someone with a deposit on them yet. Of those 10, a good majority, the vast majority, 8 of them are small, no view, not a very popular site. And oftentimes when we go to the waiting list on those sites, it's a sorry, no, I'm waiting for a better site. Sorry, no, I'm waiting for a better site. That's what slows us down when we're trying to place like small sites. But that's kind of a typical late winter, spring placement process. It works. It just takes a long time. And the idea of the waiting list may not be sustainable if we're only turning over 5 or 10 sites a season and we're signing up 50 or so folks a season has been the trend for, new signups every year. We've got it chronological, and starting in about 2016, 17, we started to see these, perhaps it's boomers, perhaps it's the cool town contest, whatever it was, we got this 60 a year, 50 a year, in the last 4 years is when the list has really, bloomed. And now new people signing up want to know how long it's going to be. And we can't say 50 years.
Yeah.
And
It
the
could
lottery,
be.
and so then you think outside, you think about a lottery, you think about a bid, auction. I think managing an auction would be difficult. I'll talk about the auction first from a management point of view. Unless we've got some app or some kind of an eBay, third party online setup, I couldn't imagine being an auctioneer.
No, but what if you just had people, they went on the site on a certain date and the spots were listed and they emailed their bid in for that spot?
Like a silent auction.
Basically, right.
Yeah.
I mean, just, I don't know.
That's a good idea, Rita. And so I don't want to say we can't do an auction because it's too hard to manage. I just think if you like that idea, we'll make it work, but we'll have to think about all those little details.
Right. And I get what you're saying. A live auction could be, you probably make more money, but if you just, people say, I'm willing to, I want that spot the rest of my life. I've got a good 20 years, hopefully, of the rest of my life. I'm willing to put in 5-10 grand. So I get that spot.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it could be a significant amount of money. It just depends on what you have. There's people that, like you said, there's 300 people on the list, and who knows?
What if y'all decide in 5 years though to phase out of seasonal?
Yeah, well, that's
not even go there. That's a
risk we take. But it doesn't affect the cost of what people would be paying. They'll still pay their fee for their spot.
Madam Chairman, I have a question or a suggestion, and that is that you and Dave have talked about this a lot, and you have a lot of knowledge about it and investment in it, and Dave has a lot of knowledge. I think if we were going to think about this auction, it ought to be something that you and Dave can agree on as far as a process is concerned. And then I think we
haven't talked about it in great extent. It just was an idea that we met with, and Dave had mentioned that, the lottery had been brought up before, and Dave's always open to ideas. So it wasn't in great extent. I mean, there's always room for ideas and thoughts, and that's why we're here.
My thought is that it's hard for me to get my mind around the auction until I know the details of what you've got in mind for the way the auction's going to run, and what result you're trying to do, and who's going to.
So for example, Sam posts on the end of February, it comes out and it says, we have spot 43 open. It fits such and such a rig, and da. And people respond by sending their email in with their bid. On the 5th of March, it's decided who gets that spot by the bid.
And I think that's a possibility, but I think you and Dave ought to have it written down so we can analyze it in more detail before we have to vote for it.
Yeah, it's a good point, Steve. And we'd have to check with downtown and I'm thinking bid now, I'm thinking sealed bids, and maybe because we're a municipality, there's some, legal, I see Bob nodding his head. He knows what I'm talking about. So, and that might be reason enough not to go to the full extent of flushing out all the details, or maybe we check some of these like early details. But again, it's only if you all are suggesting this as a majority, if you all feel this is a good way to go. I mean, I'm not suggesting it is yet. It's just brainstorming right now.
Dave?
Yeah, Bob.
I think it's always fair to ask people to put their money down, to put earnest money down if they want something. You have to balance that against the legality of bidding in a city setting, which is more difficult. But as a former lodging denier in Grand Marais, which we did professionally for 6 years, no, you can't stay here. we don't feel like making up your bid. I think everything should be done to reduce the ambiguity of lodging so that when somebody heads to Grand Marais, they know what's here. And anything that plays into ambiguity of having a bed or not, I think is bad. So whatever is final, if it's financial, that's good. I think a lottery sounds a little capricious. I think some kind of bidding, but not, not to make it cutthroat, would be reasonable. The way you buy a house, you put your earnest money down and you
What you
hope
do
it goes
in your
well.
offer.
You
Mhm.
hope it goes well. And there must be a legal way of doing that without getting into the weeds. But keep the ambiguity down so folks can know what territory they're in. Shouldn't have to go to 20,000 to get a place to stay. But
No,
you
I'm just
also
giving.
shouldn't have to rush the gates at 10 o'clock at night, make somebody get up and let you in, you know?
Those are helpful comments, Bob, I think.
Well, we were talking about this today. I'm a lazy innkeeper. I'm happy to work. I don't want to work very hard. I want my customer happy, and I don't want everybody rushing around, so if we can reduce that quality, that's great for the whole city, because, it gets crazy up here. And then people get mad.
Well, we're just talking about seasonal spots, so I'm a little confused on what you're saying there. This would just be for the seasonal spots that are open. It wouldn't affect people coming for short term or weekends or things like that. They would all have their reservations. This would just be those 90 spots.
You join a
And
long line
whatever.
of people. You join a long line of people who are confused by my comments at board meetings.
I'm sorry, Bob.
I don't mean to mess it up. The 2
No.
points, the 2 points are put your money down and don't disappoint people.
So I think that maybe we're safe to say we should look at, oh, sorry, Frankie, go ahead.
When I wanted to move here to Homestead, they had this open unit. And so we all that wanted to move here had to just put a bid.
Right. There's a big list.
We didn't know what anybody else bid. We
Right.
just put in a bid. And fortunately, I was high enough that I won, but
Well, congrats. But there's a long list of people that would like to live there. And that's kind of like the campground for those spots. There's a very long list of people that want to be in there before they die. And, it's just an option that we could look at and see if if it's even legal. Maybe the legal department has some other way of doing it. I don't know. But I think it's something we should continue to look at. And
I get it. I think we've got the time, or we're right in that process now of placement on the list, and so now would be a terrible time to change our policy. It's kind of one side.
It's too close to what's going on with that. Sure.
And so this was something we would roll out next January, February, March.
Exactly.
And so we have all year to really keep honing this idea.
And obviously it was written up, in 2009? So we're talking 11, 12 years ago that this issue was addressed and nothing ever happened. So if we could keep it kind of moving where we could find out if it's a possibility, we could decide as a board if that's something that would work, if it would help in the office, if it would, alleviate a lot of people complaining, I don't know. It's a possibility.
If I hear Dave correctly, the time for us to think about this again in a detailed way, it would be next summer, July or so, August, something like that.
Yeah, it'd be great to have if we're going to make a change similar to our reservation policy, we'll make that change as soon as we know, as soon as we feel comfortable. It could be June, it could be August, but it would be best in the season so that we can share it with our folks.
Yeah.
We get a lot of the summer folks that are on the list are also overnight weekend folks, or they come up, they wonder what's the news, what's the latest, where am I on the list? So yeah, if we're going to make a change, it'd be great to have it before next November. But it does give us a good 4 or 5 months here to work on it. And I'll get into the legal on the bidding and the auction.
Was there anything written down in 2009 about these ideas?
Just the policies, just the goals and policies.
There wasn't any other more detail in any of it. Okay, so we have to figure this out of whole cloth.
Yeah. The ideas around lottery, I kind of have always, since 2009, I've offered that as an alternative, where it makes very easy sense. It would be hard to say this site only fits a 25-footer, so how do I know who to put into the bin?
Yeah, you'd have all kinds of lottery tickets you'd have to sell, and I
or not even sell
buy
tickets.
lottery tickets.
I would think of not to monetize it, where we're not selling tickets necessarily. We're just putting names into the hat that are off the waiting list. But again, to fit the site to the name that's the biggest challenge, is that our sites are not uniformly sized. And so the waiting list really doesn't run sequential in the true sense of like the chronological order isn't your only indicator of success. It's site size, it's the unit size. And we get folks off the waiting list that have a little scamp that'll take a 13-foot site, and they just signed up 2 years ago.
Right. Well, and so it goes to people that are already in the park that have sites. So you have to do a two-step process. You have to offer it to them first, then their old sites open up. Then you have to offer another site, where this would alleviate all that. You just have the open, and everybody bids for what what they would want for that site. It doesn't matter if you've been on the list for 10 years or on the list for 2 years.
I get it.
Yeah. So if you would check into that, Dave, I think that we could table it and try to see what legal would say to something like that, and we can all think about it and hopefully not lose track of that thought for the future board meetings.
In terms of the time for the staff to spend on it, is the July and August time a better time than before that?
No, we would spend the next few, we've got the next 3 or 4 months is a good time.
It has to be
this before July and August. This will be a April, May, June thing.
Okay.
Steve, you need to go down to the office sometime in the summer.
Oh, that's right.
You need to take a tour sometime in the summer. They work hard in that office. It's crazy.
I'm trying to forget that visit.
Sorry, Dave. Yeah, you guys work really hard. It's a lot of juggling, that's for sure. Okay, is there any other news? Any other?
Well, the only other old business is in this, in the same category, like we've explained. We are into the process now of placing seasonal sites. That's what Sam's working on now. She's got a database of emails together where she's sending out sort of mass emailing, are you still interested? So we're really trying to cull through the lists and get these sites placed. We anticipate several marginal sites maybe not going off the list, but there'll be no foul there because of the seasonal contractors that were more than happy to take advantage of those last year, with the MnDOT crew.
By the office?
Yeah. Some of the smaller, like busier sites, we've got plenty of demand for when it comes to seasonal contractors. But we're definitely working on seasonal sites right now.
So will we not offer those for anyone, Dave, those spots? Or what do you think?
No, we certainly do. Like when we call someone, we give them the menu and here's the 10 sites to choose from. But come May, when we still have 2 or 3 really marginal sites, they just go first come, first serve.
Makes sense.
So now is my motion to adjourn in order?
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, we are done, right? Do we have to vote to be done?
I don't think so. You may just adjourn.
Okay.
You don't even need a motion to adjourn. You can just be done.
Thanks,
Just-
Sarah.
You need to
Turn off
adjourn
the
us,
camera,
Chairwoman.
Okay,
I have
everybody.
Uh,
Oh, and your cat.
She is 6,000 miles an hour and never walks anywhere. She either runs or she sleeps. And now I understand why people have all those cat videos.
Makes money after. Nice seeing you, Frankie. Take care.
We'll see you all in March.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Stay warm.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.